You think you're so special? You think you're so cool? No, you're not. Where are you going? Get back here. Other people can have vertical arms too. If you thought Cariaria and Realacc were the only ones in the vertical arm business, well, guess what? You were wrong. There's another company called Moka, and they make a frame called Jadina that also has vertical arms. They implement them a little bit differently than Realacc and Cariaria did. Theirs looks a lot like this. However, this one is made by Realacc. It's called the RX5, and we're going to take a look at this one today. This is the box the RX5 comes in. We open it up. It has a landing pad to go underneath your battery, power distribution board, and this has a 12 volt and a 5 volt output on it. Here's the main parts of the carbon fiber and more landing pads. Or actually, I've been using these on the underside of my quad to help hold the battery in place. Now I can strap it down, and they put a little bit of pressure to help hold it in place. Battery strap, the metal pieces that are for the sides to help hold the carbon fiber vertical arms in place. Ooh, this is the first time I've ever seen a file included. They must feel bad about giving you rough corners. It also has the nylon spacers and a bunch of screws to help put it all together. Here are all the pieces laid out, and this quad does not look like your average quad. It has these giant arms, and they are about 5 millimeters thick, and you have two of them that are the same here, and then these two are the same. So they're probably for the front and the back, which I'm pretty sure of. Also, it has the bottom plate and the top plate, and the top plate and the bottom plate are nowhere near the same. Then it has these little pieces here that are designed to hold the motors that attach to the arms. And also, it comes with orange and blue, so your two different sides are going to be two different colors. If you want just orange or just blue, you're going to have to order two frames. And also, it comes with a whole bunch of screws, and then these pieces here are designed to help hold the little pieces onto the arms, and we'll start doing that here right now. When you're putting this together, this motor mount here should be snug up tight to the arm. On the back you can see a little bit better. There are these little blocks, and the screw goes into the outside and then goes over. And if you look at this hole placement, this bottom side is a little bit smaller than the top side. And the smaller side needs to go closer to the arm. If you don't get the smaller side closer to the arm, it'll look more like this, where there's that little gap over on the left-hand side. So that one there actually needs to be flipped over, and you can tell when you flip it over this way. The smaller gap is up here on the top and not down there. And also, when you're putting these together, you need to make sure that you are making them opposite each other so they look like this. And if they both go out the same side, you probably did it wrong. For the screws that are coming through the arm itself, you want to use the 10 millimeter screws. That'll put 5 through the arm and then 5 more into the little block. And these little screws up on the top that go down through the motor mount, those are just 6 millimeter screws. Here I have the arms mounted up to these little side plates. They just mount into here with 2 of the 10 millimeter screws, and they just hold themselves in place. And this is where I was saying you need to make sure that you get the pieces on opposite, otherwise you'll be pulling them off, putting them on the other side like I did. As you're putting this together, you're going to have to be thinking a little bit ahead, because once you put these sides on, it's going to be pretty tight inside here, just because this metal piece that goes through here. So you'd probably be better off mounting your 4-in-1 ESC down here and then start putting the sides on. Also, up here where the camera mounts on, looks like it's going to be fine, but it's just going to be near impossible to get to without taking the arm off to tighten or loosen the camera. So you need to make sure you get it set right also before you put it together. And also, like I was saying here, there's not a lot of room inside there, but these metal pieces are cut out, kind of beveled around the edges a little bit, so the flight board will fit down inside there, and hopefully you won't have any contact with the sides. That would not be good. Like I said, it's just going to take a little bit more planning than a normal frame would, but from the looks of this so far, this thing's going to be like a tank for all your electronics inside, and to have something get in there, it's going to have to be something pointy come in, because there's not going to be much like braking with this frame. The top and the bottom plate are held on with these little beveled screws. And if you look here closely, you can see it's all beveled out, so that way when this screw goes in, it sits a little bit more flush than it normally would. That's good, except for that means there's less material inside here that the screw has to hold on. So we'll see how this works out in the end. But I don't know if it's going to be too big of a deal. You do have 4 of these screws holding it on, and you're not going into spacers. You're going into these big, strong metal pieces. So I'm not really too worried about these actually breaking off. So here's the Realacc RX5 fully assembled. This thing looks massive and it feels tough, like it's going to have a real hard time breaking. Let me get some measurements off this and we'll keep going. So here's the frame. I'll go ahead and weigh it without the battery protector or the power distribution board or the landing gear. And it comes in about 147 grams. So this is not an ultralight frame. This is more than double the weight of an ultralight frame. But you're going to have a hard time breaking anything inside here. This thing just feels so rock solid. And here's the frame now with the power distribution board in there and the battery protector, the battery strap, and these little pads that I put in here to help keep the battery from sliding out. And these will squish down to almost, you know, well, about a third of that size anyway. So let's put it on here with the scale. And everything on here comes out to be about 169.4 grams. The top plate here is 2 millimeters. The bottom plate is also 2 millimeters. The arms are about 5 millimeters wide. Here in the middle of the arm's about 11 millimeters tall, maybe 11.7. These front carbon fiber pieces are about 2 millimeters also. In between the two of them, it has about 27 millimeters of space. In between the two plates here in the back, it has about 31 millimeters of space, so it's a little bit taller than the normal 28 that you usually see between plates. Up here in the front, it runs near 34.5 millimeters tall. Diagonally between the motors, it comes up to be about 215 millimeters. From side to side, it comes up to be about 165. From front to back, it comes up to be about 138, so this is actually wider than it is long. Here on the bottom of the frame, there's some holes cut for a battery strap. And normally I just run the battery strap through here and be done, and if it breaks, then I'll run it underneath the flight board as a replacement at the field, because it's too hard to get it through these little holes when I'm at the field and I'm wanting to fly instead of fix things. Well, one of my friends, what he started doing was he started running a battery strap through the holes like normal, and then a second one underneath the flight board, or the 4-in-1 ESC, and that way he actually holds his battery on with two straps. And the nice thing about that is you got two straps holding the battery on, so they can share the weight of that battery when it crashes and the momentum that it carries. So that's just something to think about. I'm not going to do that because I only have the one strap here. So here's a 5-inch prop, and it's going to have no problems clearing the body of the frame. And it also doesn't go over halfway across either, so they shouldn't have any clicks between them. Now, another thing to remember about this is the motor is actually going to sit up about this high, so your propeller is actually going to be up here, and it'll probably be going over top of this if it were long enough. So you might even be able to use a little bit longer props. Now the battery, if you have the battery up on top, you can't overlap anything, and this is a 4-cell battery up here. And down here on the bottom, this battery strap is probably long enough to wrap around a 4-cell. However, if you get a 6-cell battery, it's going to be a little tight on space. And also up here on the top, the 6-cell battery, this is the Pyrodrone 1250. This one is actually just as wide as the body, so it's going to be a little tight in there. But if you ran up on top, you're going to help center your center of gravity a little bit more, because your motor's going to be up here and your props will be, you know, about as high as the battery is. If you have it down here, it's going to be like carrying around a pendulum or flying around with a pendulum down below. But you know, I think a lot of that really just depends on which way you're used to flying. If you've been flying one way or another, just keep flying that way and you probably won't even notice a difference. So here's the RX1 sitting next to the real one, True X frame. And if you look at them, they look, you know, pretty close to the same size. This body here looks a lot bigger and a lot more heavy duty than this one, but that's because it is. So this is the Realacc RX5 frame, and I think this thing is going to be super tough, super hard to break. It does have a couple things that make it kind of difficult, like you have to take one of the arms, maybe take this one off and this one loose, then the arm can bend down and you can get in here to tighten and loosen your camera. And any kind of time you have to do work on the flight board, it's going to be a little bit of a pain because you just can't get in there without taking the top plate off. And also the initial assembly might be a little tough, but I think once it's together, it's just going to be super tough and be able to roll and crash and not break, and especially not break the electronics inside. So overall, I just think this is a pretty good freestyle frame. It's a little bit heavy, but if that's what you're into, then it's a good frame. Anyway, Realacc RX5. If you have any questions about this, leave them down in the comments and I'll try to help you out as best I can. And as always, thanks for watching.